You've all heard the saying, a picture can tell 1,000 words. Well, this picture of Netanyahu giving a speech to a virtually empty audience at the United Nations tells the story of a movement that's not going to stop anytime soon. Delegates staged a mass walkout, leaving the hall nearly deserted as Netanyahu railed against international recognition of the state of Palestine and attempted to defend Israel's actions over the past 2 years. Netanyahu's growing isolation on the global stage is a direct result of nearly 2 years of opposition and activism, proof that mass mobilization can actually force leaders to reckon with the new reality. One where genocide must be called out and stopped. However, this isn't just an international story. Public support in the United States of Israel is plummeting, and quickly. Recent polls reveal just how strongly public sentiment has turned. Around 43 to 45% of Americans now believe that Israel is committing a genocide, with just 28 to 31% disagreeing. The share of people who support unconditional U.S. military aid to Israel has also collapsed. Meanwhile, 40 to 42% of Americans want to decrease or halt all aid to Israel. And Democrats and younger adults, they're even more critical. 65% of Democrats see Israel's campaign in Gaza as a genocide, and only 8% of Democrats still support Israel's actions. At this point in 2025, after a very polarizing election last year in an already polarizing country, 84% of Americans want a permanent ceasefire, and a large majority of them also support increasing humanitarian aid to Palestinians. This is a seismic shift, and young people are leading the charge. In the United States, for voters under 35, only 9% of them support Israel's actions. This is a generational transformation that mirrors, if not surpasses, the moral momentum we saw in the anti-Vietnam War and anti-Iraq War movements. I bring up these historical examples not only to reveal what was possible then, but to show us what could be possible now. Those previous movements didn't instantly end the wars that they condemned, but they forced American leaders to come to the table, and they shaped American policy and ideas for decades. If anything, the numbers today, with nearly half of all Americans calling what's happening in Gaza a genocide, prove that public pressure is working. It may look like it sometimes, but American politicians aren't actually stupid. They've been tracking these numbers since the beginning, especially with the midterms coming up next year. Every spike in disapproval, every campus protest, every boycott, every new voice calling for a ceasefire has shaken the foundations of automatic and unquestioned support for occupation, repression, and genocide. However, not all elected Democrats are living up to this moment or willing to represent their constituents. 30 House Democrats just signed a letter explicitly opposing any attempt to recognize the state of Palestine, defying the calls from their own voters and the wider international community. Even with the pressure mounting from inside and outside the party, many elected officials insist upon remaining comfortable within the status quo instead of taking a stand for justice. So with the midterm elections coming up next year, we have to keep up the pressure, the protests, the public direct actions, anything to prove to these leaders that we're not planning to hide their complicity under the rug. This anti-genocide movement is fulfilling the unfinished missions of those who marched against the Vietnam and Iraq wars, by refusing to let their outrage slip into resignation, and by forcing the US government to finally change course. Victory isn't inevitable, but these numbers should give you hope. The pro-Palestinian message is convincing new people every single day. It's shifting the debate. And if the momentum holds, you all are poised to accomplish something that generations before could only imagine.